The legend of General Braddock's gold runs like this. In 1755, war raged across the American frontier. The English general, Edward Braddock, landed at the port of Alexandria, Virginia, with British regulars. Braddock's mission was to drive the French out of Fort Duquesne, modern-day Pittsburgh. Braddock faced an enormous challenge, moving men, equipment, and heavy artillery across densely wooded and mountainous terrain into western Pennsylvania. Heavy rains from April to June made the land between Alexandria and the fur-trading town of Winchester a sea of mud. The expedition progressed slowly. In some cases, the column moved a few miles a day, maybe only 2. Arriving at the village of Newgate, renamed Centerville in 1798, only 27 miles from Alexandria, the cannons and wagons bogged down in mud. Braddock ordered some of the artillery buried. Taking aside a small group of soldiers, he buried 2 of the brass cannons after pouring the heavy gold coins used to pay the troops into the open ends of the barrels. The mouths of the cannons were then sealed with wooden plugs. The general carefully noted the location of the treasure, 50 paces east of a spring where the road runs north and south. The road of which he spoke is now called Braddock Road, where the road runs north to intersect U.S. Route 29 211 in Centerville, Virginia. Well, Braddock marched on to disaster in western Pennsylvania. Ambushed in the thick forest, the red-coated British were easy targets for the concealed French and Indians. The few trusted officers who knew the secret of the buried treasure were killed in battle. Finally, with General Braddock mortally wounded, the army managed to retreat. Braddock died on the night of July the 13th, 1755. The general's papers were sent to England. Years later, an archivist found the account of the buried gold located in Virginia. A special committee was dispatched to search for the gold, but returned to England empty-handed. So here you have the legend of Braddock's gold. But where did it come from, and how true is it? In 1982, Douglas Phillips and Barnaby Nygren wrote a monograph entitled An Inquiry into the Validity of the Legend of Braddock's Gold in Northern Virginia. Phillips and Nygren assert that they were unable to find any reference to General Braddock's treasure dating before 1954, when an article called A Buried Treasure by Charles Day Gillis appeared in the 1954 yearbook of the Historical Society of Fairfax County. The popular media was quick to take up the Gillis article. Problematically, the Gillis article cited no references. The Historical Society's commentary on the Gillis article at the time of its publication was, Mr. Gillis is a lifelong resident of Prince William County. Legends such as this are a most delightful part of our history. When Phillips and Nygren compared historical documents to the Gillis account, red flags went up. The Gillis account, in many of its details, was not borne out by Braddock's own accounts or those of his officers. The army seems to have made good marching time and encountered no bad weather. There is no evidence to suggest that any difficulties were encountered where the legend suggests the gold is buried. Phillips and Nygren next mapped out Braddock's line of march based on documents of the time, demonstrating that the column never came near Centerville. Phillips and Nygren concluded the chances of Braddock's gold being buried in Fairfax County were virtually nil, but that the gold might be buried elsewhere along Braddock's route. Which brings us to an interesting treasure legend from North Huntingdon Township in western Pennsylvania, as recorded on its website, which says, during the time of his expedition into the North Huntingdon area, General Edward Braddock camped one evening with his army near what is now known as Circleville. Braddock requested that the men wait until after the battle to get paid because a number of them would be killed. Therefore, he reasoned, there would be fewer to divide the gold. The men voted in favor of Braddock's plan. Braddock then suggested they hide the gold instead of taking it into battle, lest it fall into the hands of the French and Indians. And so, the legend lives on another day.